Hello everybody, it's Wendy, and today we're going to make a beautiful necklace using SoftFlex Beading Company's products. So first of all, for our encouraging word for today is Psalms 139:14. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. So I love the scripture, it makes me happy. All right, so this necklace is going to require a lot of different stuff, so don't get scared. But the main component that we're using is this SoftFlex beading wire. Now, let me grab the spool here so I can show you. This is SoftFlex beading wire. This is medium. This is in the color Red Jasper. And it's very pretty. This wire is pretty. You can let it show on your necklaces. I think that's the point of it. And so I'm excited to get to work with this today. So we're going to be using a piece of SoftFlex beading wire. I've got mine measured out at about, let's see here, 23 inches, okay? And this is going to be the main part of my necklace. This is what I'm going to be stringing on for the most part. Now I have a bunch of the wire cut in smaller pieces, and I have 2 of each one, so I'm just going to tell you the lengths. So I've got 2 cut at 4 inches. I have 2 cut at about 3, a little over 3.5. I have 2 pieces cut at a little over 3. I've got 2 pieces cut at 2.5. I have 2 pieces cut at a little over 2 inches. And then I have 2 pieces cut at about 1 3/4. Okay, so I have all of those lengths cut in this SoftFlex beading wire because we're going to be making some dangles using the wire. Okay, now this is the Woodland Walk design kit. I did an unboxing for this, and I will link that in the description box below if you're interested in subscribing to it or ordering it. I don't think it's a subscription, it's just an order. But both of these components came in the Woodland Walk kit. This is a metal leaf and a really cute little squirrel. Now you can use any products that you have. If you don't have the Woodland Walk kit and you can't get it or don't want to get it, you can use, any metal leaf charm, any little animal, whatever you have. I have several crimp beads in a copper color. And I have these little clamshell covers. Now these open from the side. They're not like the normal clamshell covers that I use a lot. They open from the side, and I'm going to be using these to attach my wires. These are available on my website if you don't have them and you need them. Okay. And then I'm using a bunch of beads from the bead mix that was in this box. So that was the Jesse James Woodland Walk bead mix. Yes, I just dropped my card. And then there was a strand of beads in there that this came off of, and then there was a strand of these flowers. And I'm using several of the flowers. I'm using this green color of the bigger bead that was in there. And then I'm using just a mix of the beads from the Woodland Walk mix, okay? Now, I've also got here some bugle beads. I have some larger ones, and I have some smaller ones. And I might be mixing those in. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to design this yet. This is a design on the fly. I'm using the, I'm using the toggle clasp that was included with the kit, and a couple of jump rings from my own stash. And then I'm using more of the beads from the Jesse James bead mix. So these beads here are going to be the focal, the middle, and these are going to go up the side, okay? So you'll see how I utilize them here in a minute. But some of these are from the Jesse James bead mix. Some are from the fire polish strand that was in the box. But all the beads except for the bugle beads that I'm using came in this Woodland Walk design kit. Now I am using some bead caps from my own stash. These are little 6mm ones. The ones in the kit, I'm using them as well, but they were these filigree, more cupped ones, and they don't look really good on just regular 6mm beads. And then these were too big for the 6mm beads, so I'm using them on something else. You will probably need some eye pins and head pins and jump rings, okay? And then, of course, your jewelry tools. So get everything together, and we're going to make a necklace. Alrighty, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with our dangles. Now, these are fairly long. I'm not sure I will keep them this long, but I'm going to start them out this long. And what I'm doing is I'm going to lay them, so the longest one's in the middle, then the next longest, then the next ones, and I'm just graduating them in size from the middle out to the edges, from the biggest to the smallest, okay? And that's how we're going to bead them. They're going to hang from the main strand here, this one. All right, so the first thing that I need to do is I need to decide how I want to bead them. So I'm going to grab my beads that I have pulled out here for the middle. Scoot this up just a little bit for a minute. And I just am going to do this very randomly, okay? So there's not going to be really any rhyme or reason to it, but I'm going to be using crimp beads to attach, to keep the beads from falling off the ends of these strands, okay? So here I've got my crimp beads. Now, like I said, this is a design on the fly. I've got the idea in my head, but if I use the beads, I wouldn't be able to do the necklace. So I am kind of designing on the fly. Now this is going to be one of the pieces for the center, and so are these bead caps, and so is this bead. So those are going to go in the middle. I'm not going to use them on these bottom pieces. And these guys, I think I'm going to put in between here on the strands. These little drucks right here, because I want this to lay nicely, and if I don't put something in between each little strand, they're all just going to ball up on top of each other, and that's definitely not what I want. So, okay. So that narrows us down a little bit to these beads, okay? So I know that I want to use the flowers on the ends of some of these strands. So I've got 2 flowers there. I think I will put 2 here, and I have 2 more. Do I want to put them here? I think I might just do them right here. So I'm probably, I don't know, I may put some of the flowers up in here too. That really would look pretty. I know I want a couple on the end. Do I want these longer ones on the end? I don't know. Let's just lay them on here and we'll decide that in a little bit. I may use those on the end. Okay. So there's our flowers. Now, the bugle beads, I'm just going to have kind of floating in different places. So I am just going to go ahead and kind of design this. I know I want my bead caps on my flowers. And I've only got, let's see, I should have 6 of these bead caps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I should have 1 more. Did I lose it? I think there were 6. I don't think there were just 5. But I'm not seeing my 6th one. So either there weren't 6 or I've dropped one somewhere. So we'll just take this guy out just to make matters easier. And if I find it, then I'll just put it back. It could be on the floor. Who knows? Okay. Now, let's see here. I probably will use a couple of these guys, these little bead caps on the flowers. I'm probably going to make the flowers look like something is dangling from them on some of these too. Like this one and this one. Now, what am I going to do on this guy? Let's see here. So I'm going to be using crimp beads to keep, like I said, to keep the beads from falling off the ends of these strands. I'm also going to be using the crimp beads to make them look like they're floating, okay? If that makes sense. I hope it does. So I may actually use some of these green beads, these really pretty fire polish beads. I think I might pull some of these into here as well. And I'm just going to lay this out and design it kind of like I would, you know, just kind of like I want to design it. You can do yours however you want it to be. And so I'm just going to do this, and I'll probably speed this part of the video up just so you don't have to be, you know, bored with this. But I'm just going to go ahead and lay the beads out like I want them to go. Okay, oops, let's put that one up there. I've also got these other little these are not crimp beads, they are actually little bugle beads. That one's broken though. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of lay them out. I want something on every strand, but there doesn't have to be a lot of anything on every strand. Okay, let's see how this is looking. It's kind of cool. Let's see, those would be good there. Okay, now I might use these bead caps on these green beads here. Okay, so I can fill in some more if I need to. I'm just going to lay these beads up here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my clamshell covers out and my crimp beads. And you don't need crimping wire or crimpers specifically for this part, because all these are really doing is holding our beads on the strand. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my smallest one over here. I'm going to put the crimp bead on the very top of my piece of wire, and I'm just going to crimp it down. Kind of tight, but not tight enough to damage the wire. And then I'm just going to put my little side fold clamshell cover on here, and I'm going to close it up over this crimp bead. I'm going to make sure that it's closed well. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and put my beads on. Now with this one, I'm just going to let the beads hang on the bottom, so I don't really need to crimp anything up on the wire. I'm just going to take the beads, put them on, grab my crimp bead, and crimp down at the very bottom. Whoops. Just down here at the very bottom. And all this crimp bead is doing is holding, oh my goodness, he's just giving me trouble, isn't he? All this crimp bead is doing is holding the beads on the wire. So he's basically just like another little bead down there. And if you want, you can cover him with a crimp cover, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to let him be another little bead on the wire. So there's one. We're going to do the same thing with the tops of all of these. So we're going to crimp and put our clamshell cover on the tops of every single one of these strands across here. Okay, so go ahead and do the tops of all of them, and then we'll come back and we'll finish them. Okay, so I have all of my tops completed, and now I'm just going to decide how I want my dangles to look. So this one on the end I'm going to leave just like it is, and I'm going to do this other one the same exact way. So I'm going to put on my rondelle and my bugle bead. Like this, and then I'm just going to put a crimp bead on the bottom. Now I've got, I believe these are size 2 crimp beads. The smaller you have, the better. I just don't have I don't have any smaller ones really, so I'm just using what I've got. So there they are. Okay, now this guy, what are we going to do with this guy? So I know I want to do the flower on the bottom here, and I want to do this bead cap on top of him. So, and then this guy, I think I'm just going to do it on top of the, I may use a bead cap with this one though. So let's see. So let's do this red bead, then the bead cap, and then I'm going to do this bead cap right here, and this flower bead. Okay, and I'm going to put those on, let them drop, and then I'm just going to take a crimp bead and I'm going to crimp the bottom of this wire. I'm just going to crimp the bead on, and all that's doing is that's just going to keep those beads from falling off. Okay, there we have it, just like that. Pretty. Same thing on the other side here. So I'm going to do my red bead, my bead cap, my other bead cap, and my flower, and I'm going to crimp this down. Okay, there's our second one. So now this next one, let's see how I want to do this. I'd kind of like to make the flower floating up on the top a little bit, so let's go ahead and use one of, where are the little rondelles? Do I have more of those little rondelles? I don't think I do. Oh no, my bag has got a hole in it and everything's falling out. That's not good. I don't think I have any more of the little rondelles, so let's see here. Okay. I think I will just do the fire polish bead. No, I have to do it in the order. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm getting myself confused. The fire polish bead and the flower up here at the top, and then I'm going to do one of these little hex beads, these little bugle beads, and then I'm going to take one of my little crimps and I'm going to see where I want this to hang. So if I put it up here beside this one, I think I want it to hang right about there, and then I'm just going to crimp that little bead down. Okay, and that's going to keep those hanging right there on the wire. And then I'm going to put my big bugle bead on the bottom. And I'm going to crimp it as well. Just like that. Just make sure it's crimped good. You can tug on it. If it won't come off, you're in good shape. Okay, so there is that dangle. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay, now for my next dangle, what do I want to do on this one? Let me think here. Let me look at it here a second. Okay, so we've got this guy here. I really feel like I need something different. Let's see, how long is this guy gonna hang? I need something up at the very top. I think I'm gonna do one of these bugle beads up at the very, very top and crimp it. Okay, so just putting him up at the very top like that, crimping it down. And then, let's see, what do I want to do now? I'm just trying to even things out here a little bit and make it, I could use one of these guys. No, I don't want to add too much more in, you know, too much more different stuff in. So I think I'm just going to go down to the bottom here, and I'm going to do a bead cap, this bead, and a bead cap. And then another of my longer bugle beads. And dump these out right here on the bottom. And then crimp this down. And you obviously can do this however you want. You know, it's totally up to your own design preference. Okay, give that a tug. Okay, but I want a lot of the wire to show. I just think this wire is really pretty. So I'm going to do this other guy just like I did this one. Okay, so now I'm on to this one right here. And it's going to have a flower on it. Do I want to put the flower all the way up here? Or do I want the flower down here? I think I want the flower toward the bottom. Maybe not directly on the bottom, but toward the bottom. And so up here, I might use another of these green, these little peridot beads or I don't know, I think they're aeronite is the color that they had listed, but they're so pretty. Okay, so let's do this. So I'm going to do a bead cap, the aeronite bead, and a bead cap. And I'm going to go down just about right here, okay? And then I'm going to crimp it with a crimp bead. And the reason you don't have to crimp anything on the tops of these is because these are just gonna, the gravity by the, you know, when you have this necklace on, they're just going to fall down and be stopped by these, by the other beads, okay? And now I'm going to go down to the bottom here, and I'm going to do this little rondelle. Get him in there. This bead cap facing up towards the rondelle. This bead cap facing down. My flower bead. Okay, and let me decide where I want this to hang. So if I lay this in here like that, I want it to go a little bit lower. Maybe right about there. So I'm going to put a larger bugle bead on it. And maybe one of the smaller bugle beads, or actually I think I will do another rondelle. So a rondelle on the bottom. And then I'm just going to take one of the little crimp beads and crimp this bottom. And we'll take a look at it here in just a second. Okay, now let's see how it looks. Yeah, it's really cute. Okay. All right, now I've got my longest piece here, and I think I might take these out. I don't really know that I want something that long in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this one the same as I did this one and come right on back. Okay, so now we've got all of our pieces, or our dangles, done, okay? And we're going to work on this middle piece right here. So I have an eye pin, and I'm trying to decide. I think I'm just going to put the bead cap, this bead, this other bigger bead cap, and this red bead on my eye pin right like this. And I'm going to make another loop at the top of this eye pin. I'm wondering if that's going to make this hang down long enough. I think it is. I'm wanting this to be a little shorter than these pieces, so I think it's going to be just fine. So I'm just going to make a loop here. Bend that at 90 degrees. I can find my cutters now. I'm going to trim this off just about, I don't know, you get to knowing where where you like to trim yours for your loops. I like my loops to be kind of small. And then I'm just going to make a loop here, okay? So we've got our eye pin there. Now, I'm wanting to actually dangle this tassel and the squirrel from the leaf right here. So I'm going to take a jump ring. Let's see what we've got here. Well, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and hang the leaf. So I'm just going to take my jump ring. I am going to hang my eye pin, or my leaf, from the bottom of this eye pin. And I have to check and see. This is going to make it hang right. I just don't want it to hang sideways, so I have to check and see Sometimes you may need to put 2 jump rings in order to make it hang correctly, but this is going to be good. Okay, so I'm just going to hook this right onto here, just like this. And then I'm going to take my little squirrel and my tassel, and I'm going to hook them onto their own jump rings. And I may hook one on with one jump ring and one on with a couple of different sizes, just to make them dangle at different levels, because I don't want them right on top of each other. So I'm going to put the squirrel on with this little tiny 4mm jump ring. And again, I have to make sure that it's going to hang right. So if I hook the squirrel on here, yeah, that'll be good. Okay. So I'm just going to hook him right on with this jump ring. And here's what I've got. And then I'm going to take the tassel and I'm going to hook it on with, probably I'm going to use 3 jump rings. I want it to hang a little lower. So I'm going to use this big one and a couple small ones. I'm just going to take the big one, hook the 2 small ones on it. Now we'll put the big one in the middle. I'm going to hook the tassel to one. So you're essentially just making a little chain. I'm going to hook the tassel onto this one. And then with the top one, I'm going to hook it onto the jump ring that my leaf is connected to. So let me find the opening there. Okay, I'm going to go behind my squirrel because he's hanging, the tassel's a little lower. And I'm just going to hook it on right behind the squirrel. Okay, just like that. Let me see if it's going to hang the way I want it to. You know what? I think I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add one more jump ring to let this tassel hang down just a little bit more. So let's go one more lower. I just want him to show underneath the squirrel. And the squirrel's kind of longer, so he's getting right on top of the tassel. I love these colors together. Okay, now we'll flip our little squirrel around, and that's better. It'll just kind of dangle around there. I may even give it one more. You know, I think I'm going to. Sorry, guys. I just really want it to show more than it is. Let's give it one more little ring here. I might even do a bigger ring. Let me do this ring here. Sorry, when you're designing, sometimes things happen. Okay, so my camera cut off and I did not realize it had cut off. And it cut off quite a while ago and I didn't realize it. So let me show you what I've done. So I've taken my longer piece of SoftFlex here and I have made sure the ends are even. And then I've loaded all of these on. Okay, so I put on our a rondelle Picasso bead and all my dangles with the Picasso bead in the middle, going from smallest down to largest. Then I did a Picasso bead, a bead cap, a green bead, and a bead cap, and I hung my my focal piece in the middle, and then I went up the other side and just mirrored it. Okay, when I was done doing all that, I put my wires together, made sure they were hanging even, and then I crimped them on either side of this, just so this doesn't float all over my chain or my wire, okay? Then I came up about 1 inch and I crimped again, making sure that they're even. Then I added this little bead sequence and I crimped on top of it, okay? So I'm just putting some floating sequences up here, bead sequences, up on my wire. Okay, so I did this one, and now I'm on my second one, and this is when I realized that the camera had cut off. Sorry. So I crimped, I went up a little bit, not as much as I did here. I'm going to do these in kind of uneven intervals. So I went up just a tiny bit here, about a little less than a ½ inch, and crimped again. And every time I do this, I'm lining my wires up and making sure that my crimps on both sides are in the same place. Okay, now I'm going to add on this red bead, a bead cap, this really pretty luster bead, a bead cap, and this other red bead. Okay, so I'm doing this little sequence in the middle. Then I'm going to take another crimp bead. I'm going to let gravity, just let it fall down. And I'm going to crimp it just like that. And these are just holding these little floating bead sequences in place. So I'm going to do the other side. Red bead, bead cap, this bead, bead cap, and this red bead. I'm so sorry about my camera cutting off. I don't know why it did that. It doesn't normally do that. I've been having a lot of technical issues lately, though. It seems like every video has tech problems. It's terrible. Okay, now I'm going to go up another little interval. I think I'm probably going to do about another inch this time. I've got my bead, my crimp bead, so I'm coming up, I think right about here. I'm just eyeballing this and doing it kind of how I want it to look. You can do it however you want. I'm crimping that down, and then I'm going to do the other side. I always do the two bottom beads and make sure they're even before I start adding any other beads. Okay, so let's line these two up. Make sure that these two segments are even, and then I'm going to come up here and I kind of pin it down on the bead mat, and I'm coming up here and I'm just going to crimp beside that one. Okay, just like that. And now I'm going to add my last little sequence. I'm going to do, let's see, I think I'm going to do this green bead. Actually, I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to do, yeah, the green bead, a bead cap facing down, a bead cap facing up, my burgundy bead, a bead cap facing down, and this rondelle. Okay, and then I'm going to take another crimp bead and just let gravity, let it fall down. And I'm just going to take my pliers and crimp it. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. My peridot bead, bead cap facing down, bead cap facing up, my burgundy bead, bead cap facing down, and my rondelle, whoops, and a crimp bead. Just let gravity let it fall, just like that, and just crimp it. So now, that's all I'm going to do. Now we're going to finish it off, okay? So I'm going to put my toggles on. And this is how I'm going to do this. I'm going to grab my little clamshell covers again. I'm going to put a crimp bead on the very end of this wire. I'm going to crimp it down. Whoops. Scoot back up there. Okay, crimp it down. Tug on it. It's good. I'm going to take my little clamshell cover and put them right in there. Add two together right there. Okay. And I want to, when I use these clamshell covers, because they open from the side, you have to make sure that you get them closed up really good. So get your crimp bead in there. Make sure it's in there really good. And this is kind of a fiddly little process here, but I make sure that I've got it in there really good. And then I use my pliers and I just really make sure that this clamshell connector is closed. You can put some glue in there if you'd like, and that would definitely secure it a little bit more. Okay, and I may go back later and put some glue in there, but for now I'm just gonna do this for time's sake on this video. And I'm gonna put the little clamshell cover over, close it right up. Okay? And just make sure it's closed good with your pliers. All right, now I'm just going to take my jump rings. So I've got this, oops, let's get these out of the way, little crimp beads. I've got this bigger oval jump ring, or two different sizes actually. That's a little bit bigger one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook my bar on one side and my clasp on the other. Hook my clasp on with this one, my ring, I mean, toggle ring and bar. And now, oh, I hope these jump rings will work through this. If not, I'll grab a different one. I like these oval jump rings. I just feel like they are a little more secure than round jump rings, but they're not wanting to go through the, I didn't anticipate that, guys. Sorry. So let me grab some round jump rings. These little clamshell connectors have such thin little, their holes are just so tiny that you've got to use a thinner jump ring. Okay, so we'll do a thinner jump ring through here, and that'll work just fine. Okay, close it up. Just make sure you've got it closed really good. Okay, and there's our ring. Trying to find the same jump ring for the bar. And we'll put our toggle bar on here. And we're good to go. I really like how this necklace turned out. I love the colors, the fall colors, of course. Everybody knows that if you've watched my videos. But I think this turned out really cute. Okay, so there is our cute little toggle clasp. All right, so let me put this on a form and I'll be right back and we'll take a look at it. Okay guys, so here's our finished piece. And I really like this necklace. I like the way this turned out. It's pretty cool. You've got your, come on camera, focus. I don't know why there we go. We've got our SoftFlex wire, which shows and is very pretty, and then our little beads just kind of floating around on there. And then going up the sides, we've got our beads as well. And all the way to the back where, you know, we have a toggle clasp. So I really enjoy this necklace. I think it turned out really cute. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And subscribe to my channel. That way you know when I upload videos, you gotta ring the little bell if you do subscribe. And someone mentioned something about it costing to subscribe. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe. It's free. So please subscribe. And yeah. So I will link everything in the description box below this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.